Good morning, everyone. Welcome, or afternoon if you're joining from the from the East Coast, like myself. My name is Narelle Doan, and I am the Director of Marketing here at Viking Pure Solutions. And we are really excited to have a panel of experts today to talk about integrating points of difference that actually matter in the senior living industry. And I'm really excited to get going with the conversation. And let's have our panelists start out here in just a moment to introduce themselves. But before they do, a couple of points of housekeeping. We will have time at the end for some questions from all of you joining us, and would love to have you put those in the chat or in the Q&A box throughout the conversation, and we'll address them at the end. So the chat is the little message box to the right-hand side at the top of the menu there, and then the question box is the circle with the question mark in it. Please feel free to enter those as we discuss, and again, we'll address them at the end. So let's get started with introductions. If each of you could start by telling us who you are and your connection to the senior living industry and what brings you here today, that would be awesome. Let's start with you, Leah.
Well, hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Leah Miller. I'm the Vice President of Sales for Frontier Senior Living. I've been in the senior living space for 14 years. I, like many who are in this industry, did not start out here and did not think this is where I would be. That kind of changed in my life pivoted when I had a loved one diagnosed with dementia. So at that time, my family and I really didn't have any kind of understanding of the disease, our options, or quite frankly, where to go for help. So in my search for, the best quality care for my grandmother, we kind of stumbled upon senior living, and I came across some of the most dedicated, loving, genuine people I'd had the pleasure to know. So this ultimately led me to this industry, and my goal is to help families like mine who are struggling with guilt, confusion, frustration, and it's really my privilege to, serve this industry, and I've served in a couple different roles in sales, marketing, operational. Really just want to make a difference for those we work alongside, the residents and families that we have the honor to care for and serve. So I'm just excited to share this space today with these wonderful professionals, and appreciate the time today.
Awesome. Thanks so much for being here, Leah. Edward, you want to jump in?
Sure. I'm Edward Kraft. I am the Senior Lifestyle Director at The Landing at Augusta Woods, and also one of the leading activity professionals in the country with state and national awards. And I am celebrating 21 years in the senior living industry this year. I know, right? I look so young. Thank you.
You do.
No one said that. I told myself that, but
we all thought it.
You age very graciously, Edward.
Thank you. I was forced into this industry, unlike some people. I played the saxophone when I was a freshman at the age of 15, and after playing Jingle Bells at the third building I was at, a lady in a Jerry chair looked straight at me, and in front of my dad, in front of my priest, and in front of the church choir, she dropped the F word, and I fell in love with seniors ever since, and have been working in the industry. So I'm really excited to be here.
I love it. Congratulations on your anniversary. That's a big one. And you don't look it. You look great. Jay, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, good afternoon, everybody. Jay Zweibaum, I'm the founder and principal of Two Tree Consulting. We do primarily outsourced dining in senior living, including at our most important client, Frontier. And if other clients are on, you're also our most important. Prior to that, I spent, I don't even want to say, many years in one of the big outsourced companies, running organizations, dining like Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan Chase, Citibank. Spent 3 years in the UK, both in operational and functional roles, and spent 10 years in international across 4 continents and 24 countries at 16,000 feet and a couple thousand feet underground, and all sorts of interesting opportunities, building food courts in India, or working in hospitals in Korea, or helping very large technology companies in China. If you ever see 10,000 people come to lunch at once, it's pretty exciting. But really my ikigai, my life's purpose now is to help our seniors have better food and better dining experiences every day. That's what gets me up and gets me excited. So thanks for having us here today.
Awesome. Welcome, Jay. Daniel, you want to wrap us up?
Yeah, what a varsity panel here. I hate being the last one to go, especially with such underwhelming credentials. But no, good morning, good afternoon. My name is Dan Lawson. I lead business development for Viking Pure Solutions. And our mission, albeit a simple one to say, is not necessarily a simple one to accomplish. But our mission is to remove toxic chemicals from senior living communities. And we've been serving the senior space now for about 9 years since our company's inception in 2015. We have a very unique technology that can serve a senior living community in a way that just really, a traditional chemical supplier can't. And we're very passionate about providing the education, as well as the training and kind of the implementation to drive, outcomes that are, unparalleled as far as the space is concerned, all while ensuring, maximum resident and fellow teammate safety. So thank you all so much for being here, with Narelle and I. Such an honor to have this opportunity to share this space with you, and I really have been looking forward to this conversation. So Narelle, take it away.
Yes. Thank you everyone for being here. Now that we're all familiar with each other, I want to get right into our questions. So today we're really highlighting one of our strong customers, Frontier Senior Living. And Frontier is one of the largest and most trusted senior housing operators in the country, with dozens of locations, nearly 100, if not over 100, Leah? Over?
More.
And they're around the country and offering independent and assisted living and memory care for seniors. So Leah, I want to start with you. What are some of the ways that Frontier Senior Living as an organization stands out from the competition? And how do you provide enriched and meaningful experiences for your residents in what many would consider to be a pretty heavily saturated industry?
Yeah, thank you, Narelle. A great question. So at Frontier, we prioritize taking care of our residents, right? It's truly at the heart of what we do. After all, we're people caring for people. And to best do that, I think, one of our biggest ways we separate ourselves is we focus and care for our team members. Our culture is something that we've really, strived and tried to strengthen through our 24 years of serving seniors. We really want to elevate the experience of our team members through constant training, feedback, rewards, interactions. Ultimately, that creates a culture of happiness, skills development, joy. Kind of starting from this point translates into having truly a lively and happy community that really provides those intangibles for our residents and our families. Have you ever been around someone who's happy, who's not contagious, right? So happy people are contagious. I was just in one of our communities a few weeks ago, and a family member came up to me who thought I was touring for a loved one, didn't realize that, I was doing a site visit. And she was so excited to, share how wonderful the caregiver, what Denise was, I remember her name, and that she was re-engaged. Her mother, she had re-engaged her mother back with our Spark Montessori program. Her mother was no longer staying in her room. She was eating with her friends in the dining room. And something she said that really stuck out to me is she said that her mother was living and thriving again. And that just really, stuck with me, living again, right? That's what we want for all of our communities and all of our residents to feel. So for that community, Denise is that intangible, right? She's going to provide that interaction, that really provides that difference in the community and separates us from our competitors. We want the most, meaningful experiences. So the simple fact is most of our competitors offer the same services, right? We all provide activities of daily living. We all provide assistance with showers, but really it's going to be those stories, those team members, those people that are going to make a difference. I think I've learned throughout my life that home isn't a place, but a feeling. And ultimately, that's what we want, everyone to feel. Our team member residents is to feel it. So, I think ultimately that's going to be the biggest differentiator for our Frontier communities.
I love that you mentioned the home is a feeling. because that's absolutely, I mean, you can do all the things, but really making yourself or your community stand out with the overall experience, and who you have on the team, how they feel being on the team. And with that, Edward, let's jump in with you from our chats. I know that you got your start in senior living as a volunteer, and you mentioned it at the beginning, playing saxophone when you were just a young adult. So since then, you've become the senior lifestyle director at the Landing at Augusta Woods, and this is a frontier community located outside of Houston, Texas. Throughout your career as an activities director, what would you say has been the most important skill or technique that has helped you create and manage fun and exciting events, classes, and outings for the residents that you work with?
Thanks. That to me is a really hard question. So I came up with four important skills. The first one being adaptable, because when I entered this industry professionally, I was kind of just handed the role and was told, hey, this is what we do as an activities program, which are what I refer to as the 3 B's of activities, which everyone does, which is a Bible study, we have booze, and we have some sort of Bible study. Oh, did I say that? Bible study, booze, and bingo. Bingo. That's it. Bingo, you're right. And just because it worked for one point in time or a certain group of residents doesn't mean it's going to continue to work as you work in one particular community, because you're always getting an influx of new residents that you have to provide care for. And kind of like what Liam had said, we want to focus on the people that we have currently and not just doing the same things that we were doing. Otherwise, we're going to stick with the 3 B's of activities. And how to do that is the second important skill, which is being observant. So you have to pay attention to what your residents are saying that they like to do. You have to pay attention to what activities you put out there and if they enjoyed doing it. And you also have to play the role of a detective, seeing what your residents are capable of doing, and then implementing all of these things into this now personalized activity program, all because you're adaptable and you're observant. The third thing is networking. I think I kind of set myself apart from a lot of other activity professionals because I'm pretty much out there when it comes to the world of social media. I kind of have a cult following on Facebook and on LinkedIn. That's where most people outside of Houston know me from. And that's because I want people to not only see the wonderful things that my residents are doing, but I want to change their mind of like what seniors are capable of. And also, I don't know everything. I don't know much in how to do a lot of things, but and especially with what my residents are saying. So I'll give a short example. I had a resident 2 years ago. We have a fitness class here that's led by a former NFL player. I realized that the majority of the women were coming to his class because they have the hots for him. And they started wanting to dress up for his class. And I said, well, Walmart's right down the street. Like, we can easily get a workout outfit there. And they told me that, well, we're old. We need better quality materials. Long story short, because they wanted to dress up for our NFL player, we formed a partnership with Fabletics, which believes that everybody and every person deserves to look and feel their best. And we now have this holiday here in Houston, which we're about to start celebrating, called Old People Are Cool Day. all because I put all this stuff out there on the internet and I started asking around. So networking is a huge thing that's really important for activity professionals. And then the last part, and I think it's the most important part, is the belief that anything and everything is possible. Whether you're working in an independent living community or you're working with people living with dementia. So if you are working with people living with dementia, with cognitive impairments, and you don't think that they are capable of climbing a ladder or using scissors or using a knife, then you should create that as a goal for your activity program. We want our residents to get on this ladder so they can decorate for a Cinco de Mayo party. So leading up to that event, the Cinco de Mayo party, we should be working on getting our residents and practicing every single day, maybe starting with 1 step, maybe starting with 2 steps, maybe then ultimately they'll be able to get up on this ladder. Yeah, those are I think the 4 most important skills as an activity professional you should have.
Wow, that's a really rich answer to that question. There's so many parts that I would love to call out.
Yeah.
But I love the example that you gave with the fitness stuff too, where it's like, it's not just the activity itself, it's all of the kind of pieces that tie into it, and kind of back to what Leah was saying at the top of the call, like the overall experience and feeling that you get in the midst of those activities. That's great. Jay, let's switch to dining and cuisine. And this is often, one of the first areas that senior living communities speak about when they list what makes them different from another spot down the street or across town. But I know your company does so much more than just design menus with delicious dishes for the Frontier community residents. Can you share a little bit about how Two Tree Consulting provides an elevated dining program to these communities, and specifically how you partner with Frontier to kind of build that experience that we're talking about?
Yeah, you're going to have to extend the time of this.
But we can do as much time as we need.
Yeah, someone said to me this week, I think we were talking about elevating dining and implementing some very high-end menus. And the reaction was, hey, look, we can't put sprinkles on a cake we haven't built. So we always start with the fundamentals, the foundation of dining. So our order guide, right? Making sure people are buying the right things. Everyone thinks order guide is like eliminating things, but actually it's making sure we're buying the best products at the best price, making sure that we have a menu system so that we are meeting the requirements of our residents on a nutritional basis, as well as a taste and flavor profile, right? And then making sure that our team has the skills and know what's expected of them every day. I have something called the Jay-Z Two Tree Holy Trinity of employee engagement. So if you know anything about senior living, we lose the majority of our people in the first 100 days. And it's often care partners and dining partners who are leaving us. And so there's 3 things that we can do to support those foundational employees and make sure that they stay for 2 years. Because if they stay for 100 years, they're going to, 100 years, I wish, 100 days, they're going to stay for, on average, 2 years. So if we give them the tools to do their job, right? And that includes things like a working stove, right? Or a steam table, sharp knives, a uniform, a name tag, so they feel proud about the company that they're representing and how they look and feel on a daily basis. Number 2, know what's expected of you. I know everybody on this call knows how they're going to be evaluated in 30, 60, 90, 120 days, but do our employees know what's expected of them, right? So that onboarding and those conversations are really, really important. And number 3, feeling valued and appreciated for doing it. And I don't mean money. What I mean is feeling part of that team, being introduced to the rest of the community, the department heads, knowing how to get into memory care and knowing, what Edward's doing every day so we can collaborate with him and make sure, that our Spark program is really the best it can be. So those foundational things, our people, our processes, our systems, and our tools are what we have to do before we do anything else. Then we start to build on that by developing standards and programs like front of house, looking at our linen programs, our tableware, our refreshment station. If I said to you today, I'm coming to your house, and the first thing I do after you take my coat or in my house, take your shoes off, what are you going to ask me?
Can I get you something to drink?
Can I get you something to drink? And so how do we make sure that that level of hospitality exists within our residence home, right? Leah said it's so great, but they physically live in that building. We're guests there. So the way we look at it at Two Tree is we are guests in your house. How do we deliver hospitality, food, beverage, and experience that meets, your level of expectation? And by the way, our residents deserve it. They work really hard in their life. We should be treating them every day. It should be a party, you know? So that's a little bit about how we do. I'll just pause there, not to monopolize the conversation.
I love that though. This theme of the whole experience and tying it through. I love how that's playing all throughout. Dan, we've heard about some of the ways that frontier communities are standing out with activities, and now with elevated dining, that's kind of like the full enriched experience. But both of these areas, and with general operations, like living in these communities, it all requires a healthy and safe environment. Can you share a little bit about how we Viking Pure are helping frontier senior living communities and others in this space to keep their environments clean, prevent the spread of infection, and reduce health risks for vulnerable residents?
Yeah, definitely. And I appreciate it. I mean, just sitting here listening, I think the one thing that is so amazing to me, and it's really no wonder how we've all found ourselves on this same panel together, but I can't help but notice the common denominator, that we all share. And that seems to be a people serving people taking care of people, type of a mentality. And Edward, I agree. Old people are cool. And as a matter of fact, you actually gave me that sticker about a year ago at Tala, and I still have it hanging in one of my hangout areas. But it's a reminder that I also consider myself an old person now with two young kids, and obviously consider myself very cool. But regardless, I think our commitment, much like with Jay and Two Tree, is a commitment to education. Is a commitment to appropriate kind of accountability, if you will, in regard to embracing change, especially change that I think can bring, excellence, upon a community, not just from a differentiation perspective and your ability to care for loved ones and to, manage the expectations of family members, of residents who are living within your communities, but a commitment to, to an education in a way of, just trying to do things better. From our perspective at Viking Pure, we're very passionate about bringing awareness to challenges that I don't think a lot of people know as they pertain to the use of dangerous chemicals that we use to keep our environments, clean and safe. It's no wonder, in these types of environments like senior living or even in our educational institutions, that interacting with chemicals can be, very dangerous. And something that we're very passionate about is kind of disrupting that thought process. And, we have a unique technology, that serves frontier communities with the ability to generate non-toxic cleaning and disinfecting chemicals on site. And although that sounds really nice, and we do want green, we need clean environments, specifically, in these types of communities because of how close we are with one another, the spaces that we're sharing, and with immunocompromised, individuals, the ability for things to get, crooked quick, when it comes to flu season, norovirus season. We just, obviously COVID is fresh on all of our tongues, but the commitment to education is not just about disrupting these thoughts that dangerous chemicals can present these toxic situations, but to also to really commit to improving outcomes as it pertains to cleaning and sanitizing and making sure that our team members are getting the best outcomes, throughout the environment. The one thing that every senior living community shares is a diversification of surfaces and environments that need to be cleaned, and to kind of balance that with this clinical need to keep the environment safe for the sake of infection prevention. So in addition to kind of implementing this technology, I think our commitment to service exceeds others in the industry from a standpoint of a commitment to education and training, where we are in person, working on our hands and knees, with your housekeeping and dietary teams, to ensure that, as they're being introduced to a newer technology, that they're being supported in their utilization of those products as well. So people serving people, education, 100%.
Awesome. Thanks for that. Before we kind of move on to the next section, I do want to highlight for our attendees, please, if you have any questions for our panelists, please enter those in the chat box or in the the Q&A box to the right-hand side, and we'll get to those at the end. Leah, what are some of the ways that frontier communities are taking a holistic approach to aging and helping your residents to live their best lives? And kind of a follow-up to that, what are some of your go-to strategies as an organization to prioritize quality of life for your residents?
So our biggest go-to strategy is utilizing our Frontier Advantage Network. We call it internally FAN for short. This is our approach to maintaining the best quality of life. We have curated partnerships with both national, local healthcare providers to offer services within our communities that are preventative, holistic, that are really focused on meeting the individual needs of all of our residents. Really, the goal of these partnerships is to decrease our hospitalization, increase our overall length of stay, prioritize, the care. It allows us to really pivot quickly if we need to change a care plan or really focus on individual needs. Really having these close-knit relationships enables us to have the total holistic care for our residents. Really being able to articulate and measure the quality of life for our residents is generally going to be a full and vibrant community, right? Like I said earlier, when you walk in, you feel it. It's that intangible. Hospitality has been a big topic in senior living in the last few years, and we like Jade spoke to it, and Dan even spoke to it. We take extra effort in showcasing kind of our programs and our services. These are really shown in some of our first impressions. How we answer the phone, how we're greeting our guests, how we stand up in just, in a meaningful way, how we serve meals that are not just delicious, but beautiful, right? Hospitality to me is everything, from providing how our housekeepers and our environmental service directors are feeling about the products they use, how our Montessori inspired Spark program provides, centered focus and focuses on our abilities instead of deficits. So to me, that is how we're really providing our best quality of life for our residents. And really, those strategies ultimately end up, creating just the best environment for all.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
Jay, as a partner of Frontier Senior Living, how do you and Two Tree Consulting help to support this holistic approach that Leah is talking about, from the kitchen to the dining room? I know she mentioned not just delicious meals, but beautiful ones as well. And how do you kind of support that holistic approach beyond the dining room and the kitchen? And I know you mentioned this kind of before with kind of coinciding with the things that Edward and other activities directors are doing. And I can imagine, with Cinco de Mayo coming up, like coordinating meals and the dining experience along with those fun events that they're planning. But if you could go into that a little bit as well, please. Oh, you're muted.
I probably owe you $5. All right. So when you think about it, it starts at the top, right? So where the leadership is inspiring and inspired to provide that hospitality. It is something that we talk a lot about at Frontier and certainly at Two Tree Consulting. So once those foundational systems and processes are in place, what else do we do? I mean, aren't we done? No, not at all. So we've developed a whole bunch of programs, be it our weekly newsletter, which showcases plate of the week for all of our communities to see, where we have tips and tools. We send out holiday meals, Mother's Day, Easter, Passover, Cinco de Mayo, right? Specialty menus that people can use and suggestions on how to do that. We just recently did a quarterly live cook-along where Chef Darren was doing puree plated meals. And so people, all of our chefs got to learn, really some of the best techniques to take a pureed potato and make it look like a baked potato, or how to take steak and make it look like steak again. And you can't tell the difference. We put two plates side by side and they look exactly the same.
The Is It Cake show on.
And so we're actually going to do an advanced one coming up in June. So we're going to continue to educate our leaders. We take advantage of Pineapple Academy, which is culinary training, 3 to 5 minutes. We use that every week to train our team, because look, it all comes down to our people and our residents. Our residents are individuals. They have 21 meals a week, 3 snacks if you're in memory care, right? In our Spark program, we want to make sure that they're delighted by the food, that it meets their nutritional requirements, but also their personal taste. I would much rather give somebody a fortified milkshake, which I mean peanut butter and heavy cream, than give them a booster and Sure. Because food is fundamental to what we do as human beings. We have evolved this taste and smell that allows us to enjoy food. And when we take those choices and that experience away, we are hastening our residents, right, in their enjoyment of their life. And so food is fundamental to that enjoyment. Experiences and connections that Edward takes care of in what he does every day is fundamental. So purpose, strength, belonging, to me, are fundamental to us as human beings. And that means different things to different people. But at Two Tree and with Frontier, those are the 3 fundamentals that we focus on. Leah talked about the Frontier fundamentals, but fundamentals about purpose. Why am I getting up every day, right? What is meaningful to me? Strength. Do I have the strength physically and emotionally that's going to drive my success in life in the future? And belonging. Do I feel a part of something else? Do I have friends in my community? Do the people around me make me feel good? If you ever watch that, the Blue Zones or How to Live to 100, that's basically what they talk about, healthy foods, be it, blue sweet potatoes in Okinawa, or getting up every day to walk to church in Sardinia up the hill, which builds you that strength, but also gives you purpose because you believe in a higher being. I know it doesn't sound like I'm talking about dining, but I really am, because we are all human beings who eat and enjoy, and we need purpose, strength, and belonging to do that. And so we integrate that by working with every department within the community in order to bring dining and experience and elevation to the lives of our residents. Like, this is why I get up every day. It's so cool to be able to work with cool seniors. I love that, Edward. And I'm almost one of them. It's just so joyful. I spent, more than 3 decades outside of senior living, and I never even thought about being in senior living. And when I got the opportunity to come into senior living, I said, I know I could do the job, but I don't know if I want to work with old people. Like, I said that in my head. I didn't say that out loud. And after 3 months of running 312 communities across the country, that was my favorite part, right? You walk into the community and they go to Leah, hey, are you corporate? You're like, no, I'm Leah. They're like, you're corporate. You're like, okay, I'm fine, I'm corporate. And then I always say, can I sit down? They go, you don't want to hear what I have to say, right? Because everyone's preferences are different, and food is always going to be the #1 complaint. I accept that, because however many residents, you have that many of opinions, right? Everybody's, well, I'm not an expert in food. You are, you eat, right? So I remember this one individual sat down, couldn't do anything right. Didn't matter. We're like, try these new concepts. Like, I don't really like them. You know what he wanted? Pickled beets. That's all he wanted. When it came down to it, pickled beets. We got him pickled beets. We put it on the table. It was his table. All of a sudden, dining was great. So it just shows you how
pickled beets.
Pickled beets are great. And to Edward's point, like, you'll never know these things until you investigate. Take the time to get to know your residents and make the connections to give them the dining experience that they want. Because what I want and what Edward wants maybe are not the same thing. They're both right.
For sure.
The frontier point of difference, pickled beets. I love it.
Yeah.
I didn't have them. They were very good, I promise.
Dan, let's ask you one more. How does Viking Pure Solutions support this holistic approach to aging in senior living communities like those under the Frontier umbrella? And how do we kind of use our cleaning solutions as a way to help residents to feel more capable, particularly if they're living with dementia?
Yeah, thanks. So, yeah, the word holistic to me is I think it's an important one. We've been saying it a lot, but I think it's really important that we kind of reemphasize the definition of it. And the word holistic is just characterized by the belief that all of the parts of something are interconnected and need to be referenced to more as a whole. And the reason why I want to bring awareness to that is because I think that oftentimes, the job, right, of cleaning and disinfecting in an environment, can oftentimes be kind of, siloed, regulated to a department, and almost like classified from time to time. Is it not my job, right? Like that's housekeeping's job or dietary's job, et cetera. Our goal is to bring all of that back together and to have that, that small amount of square footage in the community that's dedicated to chemical distribution, et cetera, actually be, a substantial point of difference, for that community. We have a proprietary technology that sounds really great and does some amazing things, but if you're not using the products, then the surfaces aren't going to be clean, just like if you were using, kind of anything else. And so it's really exciting for us is to drive kind of this awareness, this education, like I mentioned before, across all of the different departments, inside of a senior living community to ensure that education, is completed and that people, who may not be delegated with cleaning and sanitizing every day still have awareness to what's being used inside of the community and to why that makes them so special. One of my favorite stories from doing this for almost 9 years came from one of Frontier's activities directors in Plano about 3 or 4 months ago, when she shared a picture of a resident who I actually had the opportunity to meet when I was there. And I remembered just having an awesome interaction with this man. But when she shared a picture of this man cleaning, his personal space, after some activities, of the day, I don't remember what they were doing, maybe painting or something like that. But because of the safety, of the Viking Pure Solutions, she was able to encourage, this man to clean his space, after he was finished, and not like as a responsibility for, cleaning up after yourself, but more of like an opportunity, to create a sense of individualism and I think pride, in their respective work. And like that couldn't be a more better personification of our mission, right? To be able to see these products being used in ways that you just can't traditionally use toxic chemicals, right? You wouldn't give a dangerous chemical to a child. You wouldn't give it to somebody who's, suffering from, dementia, either. And that, I think, to us, Narelle, I know you feel that sense of pride too, like knowing that, that we can provide those opportunities, is really important to us, all while not sacrificing the importance of creating a clean and safe environment outside of just like allowing the residents to do that the products, still meeting all of the different EPA, regulatory, credentials that are necessary for these environments, to be able to kind of supplement that with resident involvement, but also fellow employee involvement, because, now communities are, generating essentially an unlimited amount of these solutions. We've got many communities that are encouraging their employees to bottle it, take it home, use it at home, get the toxic chemicals out of their home as well as, their place of work, which is really cool to know, that that's happening. I just think when you kind of couple all of those different things together, it's just a really meaningful, relationship. And we're very thankful for those, at Frontier and Two Tree for their forward thinking, just commitment to caring for our residents.
I have a quick story to share, Daniel.
Please.
A couple months ago, when our resident care coordinator started, we had our memory care residents had decided to start cleaning, and so our poor resident care coordinator met her best. She was like, "Oh, I'm going to go to Walmart. I'm going to buy all of these cleaning solutions and cleaning products that will make our memory care smell so good." And I think she bought like Clorox wipes, and she was just about to hand it to our residents because they love to clean here. And our environmental services director, Vernon, he's like, "Do you not know about Viking Pure Solutions?" And he gave us the whole spiel, and quickly swapped out all the products that she bought to Viking Pure Solutions. And you could see the residents like confused at first as to why we're giving this one bottle instead of all these other things. But it simplified their cleaning process for our memory care residents, and it made us feel a lot safer that we were using something that was safer for the residents, that they could still be as independent as possible. So I'm glad you shared that story.
That means a lot. Yeah, I know it's just another day, in the life of a memory care director, but those little stories, just really mean a lot to us. And if those few minutes, we're at the end of an activity, et cetera, they're able to safely, just kind of take care of their space, man. That's just one small pearl to to the overall benefit, but one that we'd love to hear, and so thankful that you shared that with us.
Yeah.
For sure. Edward, I kind of want to switch gears a little bit and touch on something that both you and Leah have brought up a few times, and I think Jay as well, throughout the course of our conversation today, and that's the Spark Montessori approaches. And I'd love it if you could talk about how those Montessori approaches, what the Spark program is, and how that applies to activities for your senior residents. And if we have time, also share a little bit about your church services, because I think we want to highlight that as well.
Yeah, sure. So the Montessori approach lifestyle is all about this way of living, giving residents purpose and independence, especially those living with any cognitive impairments. What can we do to make our residents with dementia or even in independent living as independent as they possibly can by breaking down all forms of, by breaking everything down into simpler ideas and simpler processes. And that applies to independent living, assisted living, and memory care. So I kind of touched on earlier about setting things up as a goal. So if a resident can't climb a ladder and we want them to climb a ladder, maybe that's going to be our goal for the whole entire month, that instead of leading a typical exercise program where everyone's sitting and they're following this instructor, maybe we're learning how to climb a ladder by using a step stool or whatever it is. One of my favorite Montessori principles is taking something from simple to complex, and this kind of ties into our church service. So here we have a resident named Sharon who, when she first moved in, she would cry and she would say how terrible her family is for locking her up in memory care with all these people, that she's not like these people. And she's a very devout Catholic, and she was really upset that she said her son stole her ability to go to church every single day. And to hear that phrase from a memory care resident or just from anybody, my son stole the ability from me, an adult. It's heartbreaking. It kind of brings me to tears as I talk about it now. And so long story short, I could have done the typical route, which was calling up our church and seeing if they could come out and lead a church service every day for an hour. But do I really think that the residents that I have have the capacity to sit through an hour service. I don't even have the capacity to sit through an hour-long church service. And so we broke things down from simple to complex, meaning it started with lunch, because like Jay was saying, like our memory care residents look forward to lunch. Lunch is our thing here. And yeah, lunch is our thing here. So at lunch, right before we would eat, I would ask our residents, hey, can someone lead the Lord's Prayer? Just because that touches on their procedural memory. These are the things that they kind of already know how to do. And so every single day, we would say the Lord's Prayer, whether it was here in the community or if we went out to eat. It became a part of our routine. Who's going to lead the Lord's Prayer? And we did that for 6 months. Again, the goal was church. So after the majority of the residents were able to recite the Lord's Prayer, we added songs, Amazing Grace, How Great Thou Art. And we would pray, and then we would sing our 2 hymns. And then after a certain amount of time, after they got Amazing Grace and How Great Thou Art, we added more. And then we realized this is taking 30 minutes. Let's add more prayers. Let's let them figure out how to do XYZ. If we put it on a PowerPoint or if we put it on a sheet of paper, will they be able to read? Who can read? Who can lead a worship service? Who can lead a sermon? And long story short, because Sharon said that she was really upset about not being able to go to church, we started Houston's very first dementia-friendly church service, which is a church service led by people living with dementia for other people with dementia. So it's open to the public now. And as of 2 weeks ago, our residents have taken this on the road. So again, simple to complex, from the Lord's Prayer to now we're doing worship services at other senior living communities in the area.
That is awesome. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
No, great story. I love that.
So, and just kind of, I have a question for Leah, and hopefully she'll be back with us shortly. But when we spoke previously, you had shared the importance that every activity have a purpose, and you've kind of mentioned this like between the lines a little bit here in talking about the church services. But what do you feel makes Frontier different in this regard with purpose in mind and every activity?
Sure. So when I first started in the industry 21 years ago, things were so different. It was the fact that I had to be kind of like this cruise director. I had to do it all. I was the keeper of fun. Years ago, Leah had even once told a family member when we worked in the community together that I was the keeper of fun. And I was like, I'm not, because think about it. If I were to go, does that mean the residents' sense of purpose leaves as well? Or if I was the fun guy, does that mean all the fun is gone if I'm sick or if I'm taking a week-long vacation? So what I love about Frontier is that I don't have to know all of the answers because all of the answers are in my residents. And if I can figure out how I can instill that sense of purpose and how I can utilize what they know into a successful personalized program, then I don't have to be that cruise director anymore because the residents are now involved in this purposeful life because they're the ones that are doing the research without knowing. They're the ones that are leading these activities. And because as a result, I get the opportunity to provide more education and do more things like this.
That's great. I love it. Listening, really listening.
Yeah.
And then if we can, bringing in that holistic experience.
Hey, Noel, I was going to jump in. I just wanted to make sure, since we're getting kind of close to the end of our time, that we had a couple of these questions that were answered, and I thought that maybe Jay and Edward would be awesome, sources for this. Specifically, the one with how do we support residents in maintaining connections with their loved ones outside of the community. I'm sure that, from an activities, director perspective, there's a lot of communication with family members, but Jay too, I would think that, family members would want to know about the menu, how they're changing seasonally, et cetera. Like what types of things do you all do, to help Frontier with this?
Dan, I was at a Frontier community out in beautiful Sonoma County 2 weeks ago. And what was so beautiful first of all, it's a beautiful community.
Yeah.
It has its own cellar and lovely residents. It's 100% memory care. But what was so wonderful was that the families were so involved in the residents' lives every day, right? So spouses came in, daughters, sons came in, the family dog, would come in. And it was so beautiful to see that. Clearly we can provide menus. There's all sorts of outreach, on the Facebook page and in other ways that we're staying in touch with those family members. But to have a really connected community, we don't want families to disconnect from mom or dad. We want them there, in that community as part of the family, the greater community family. And I think it brings joy to everybody's life. And also they like to bring food in, right? So mom loved, I made your mac and cheese, Mom. I brought it in for you, Laura. So, and there's such a strong tie between smell and memory. Mm-hmm. So when you can bring those smell, and it's not so much taste, it's the smell, right? So if I walk into my parents' house, always smells like cooked onions for some reason. But when I smell that, I always think about them and picture my parents in their kitchen. So that smell is so integral to that memory that we want to spark, right? There's no, it's not a mistake, it's called spark. So that the residents are feeling good and they have those memories come flooding back.
That's why I bought a crock pot, Jay, because I can let that thing cook all day, and then when I get home, it smells like my mom's been there all day. You know what I mean?
One of the
Edward,
things one of the there's two parts for activities people. What I do in memory care, I'm in constant communication with the family members, because my belief is that communities usually call a family when there's a crisis. And so when they see like the landing at Augusta Woods calling, they're like, what is wrong? Did mom have a fall? Did mom get sent out to the hospital? What happened? And when I'm reaching out to our memory care families, I'm just saying, hey, just letting you know that mom led our church service at our Kingwood property. Here's some videos, here's some pictures. And so that way we're creating this positive relationship with their families. And then also I'm getting as much information from them about their loved one. Oh, well, yeah, mom used to lead the Girl Scouts too. And so she loves doing this kind of stuff, and she would do this for kids. So that then gets me going, because I'm like, oh, well, now I can get the Girl Scouts involved because you told me that she used to be a Girl Scout troop leader. And for assisted living and memory care, my residents here are all about technology. And so we now have these wonderful devices that a good portion of our senior population don't really know how to use or utilize to advantage. And so they wanted to learn how to FaceTime. And when I realized that Montessori principles apply to teaching residents how to use a cell phone, we now have a weekly cell phone class, and it's awesome. It's really cool to see that the residents say, oh, I was able to send my daughter a picture of my chair. And I'm like, okay, great. Our next step is going to be how to do a video call. But also being creative as possible. So like we have a lot of our family members that are very heavily involved in the daily lives of our residents here. And I asked, hey, what do you do? Because I try to see if there's a connection that I can form. Like one of our family members is a restaurant owner. So every other month, our residents take a trip there. They learn about the history of the restaurant. And they learned the reason why the restaurant was built is because their mom's home cooking. And also, like during the pandemic, in the beginning of the pandemic in 2020, when families weren't able to communicate or come into our communities, we have to be super creative. One of the things I've done was a reverse parade. And that was when it was cool and in to have family members drive by the community. I don't know if y'all remember that, but we did a reverse parade. And so we would socially distance 3 residents and on our bus. And we would give a family maybe 2 weeks heads up that we're going to be driving by your neighborhood. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell everyone to come out. So it was really cool in the beginning of the pandemic, driving through neighborhoods of our residents and their families and literally seeing communities coming together with signs and costumes and banners. So you just really have to be creative with communicating and staying in touch with families.
I love that. Real quick, because I know we're running out of time real fast here, and welcome back, Leah. Dan, what would be the best way to educate, and maybe Leah too, if you want to chime in here too, what would be the best way to educate the residents, family members on the Viking Pure cleaning products to minimize family members buying cleaning products for the residents and bringing them in?
Yeah. So, obviously if desired, representation from Viking Pure can always be readily available to participate in maybe some of your community town halls or, family member gatherings, to just kind of present on behalf of the solutions, how they're used and distributed, within the community, what their capabilities are, and how they would apply, to the resident, their apartment, and whatnot. But also, I think too, just obviously leveraging leadership within the communities that have, have adopted the technology, have been trained on it, and can speak to those things as well. So, but outside of a direct interaction, feel free to learn more about what we do, via different panel discussions like this, our LinkedIn presence, and as well as, our website with all of the different testimonial videos, et cetera.
Leah, did you want to add anything or? Oh,
I think we have her sound.
It doesn't look like you're muted.
Okay. Never mind.
Jay, real quick, how, if you have a moment, how is the connection between taste and smell connected to the benefits of removing strong smelling toxic cleaners from the dining experience?
So there's nothing worse, right, than to walk in. Oh, the only other thing that I would say is perfume.
Or like lilies, like some really strong smelling flowers, for sure.
But in the past, it was very common to use highly toxic, like bleach, and that those smells last a really long time, and they massively interfere with your ability to enjoy the food, right? If you're only smelling chemicals, it's going to overwhelm your smell senses, and you're not going to be able to taste the food. It's highly detracting to that dining experience. So, I mean,
yeah.
if you can avoid that, then we should, in all cases. So,
for sure. Well, cool. Everybody, thank you for sticking around for a couple extra minutes with us today. And to our panelists, Jay, Edward, and Leah, thank you very much for joining us. Really appreciate
Thank you so much. You guys are awesome. Really appreciate you.
Yeah, it's been awesome having you on board. Thanks, Leah. I will be following up later this afternoon with the link to the replay from today's conversation. So to all of our attendees who stuck around, you're welcome to rewatch, share that around. Please spread the word, and thank you as well for joining us and spending some time in the middle of your day to listen in on this really important topic. So thanks again, everybody, and we'll be seeing you.
Take care, everyone.